Hello, Tar Heel Nation. Welcome back to another episode of UNC Hoops Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Dan DeWitt, coming at you for the September podcast. I know, again, it feels like it's been so long, but quite a bit of stuff to get into this week, or this month, I guess, for this podcast. And we're going to get into updates, some recruiting stuff, hit the reunion that happened for Carolina basketball, Bahamas trips, NBA contracts for Tar Heels, and then we're going to spend a lot of time, and the schedule in there as well, and then spend a lot of time on my predictions or expectations for the players, the individual players this year. But we're going to jump right into. I want to thank you for joining me, for listening, or watching, however you're taking it in. Appreciate it. Would love to have you subscribe, so you make sure you get them all, especially as we ramp up here. Season is coming. Conditioning has started already. Practice starts, I think, next week. So yeah, we're getting close, getting the itch here. We'll talk a little bit about the schedule of the podcast here as we ramp up for the beginning of the season as well. So again, glad you're here. Let's jump in here. First, if you have not listened to the recruiting podcast that we had with Blake from Keeping It Heel last month, that's obviously the podcast right before this one. Definitely go give that one a listen. A little bit of updates from that one, though. We talked about Trey Mann on there. He is committed to Florida, so we missed out on him, that point guard. We've gotten a official or a scheduled official visit from Cole Anthony, though, the big-time number one point guard or guard in the class. He'll be visiting, so we're definitely in the mix there. And also we've thrown out another scholarship to Boogie Wells, another point guard out from California. I believe a 4-star guy, might be a 5-star guy. But yeah, obviously Roy wants another point guard there, going after Cole Anthony. If we can't get him, trying to get somebody else for that class. I don't know what that says, what he thinks is going to happen with Kobe White after the season, but obviously we trust Roy, and here he knows what he's doing. So speaking of Roy Williams, since the last podcast, the court inside the Dean E. Smith Center has been renamed I don't know that it had a name before, so I don't know if it's renamed, but it has been named the Roy Williams Court. If you haven't seen a picture of that, looks awesome. Excited. Got to make it back to Chapel Hill now so I can see that. But yeah, that happened at the reunion for Carolina basketball. They said over 300 lettermen back to be a part of that, as well as obviously just the reunion. The reunion happened, or was happening before they happened. They just decided to do this during the reunion. So it wasn't just for Roy Williams Court, but definitely a special thing happening, or that happened a couple weekends ago now in Chapel Hill. Golf outing and barbecue they had there, and more formal dinner. And then also pickup games. If you haven't seen some of the highlights there, you can find them on YouTube. There's a few highlights. I guess most of them were probably from players' social media. I know David Noel had some stuff up on Instagram, and some of the current players as well on their social medias had some videos and whatnot from those pickup games. But yeah, that's what makes Carolina basketball what it is and makes it so special. So it's always good to see, and only helps our current guys as well, I think. Speaking of the current guys as well, since our last podcast, they went out to the Bahamas. Destroyed a couple of teams out there. Competition not really what would have been great, or what we would have liked. Huffman had a 2020 game. Seventh Woods with a phenomenal dunk at the end of the first game. Hopefully something we'll see more of this season. See a little bit more of that high school Seventh Woods, kind of the hype that we had coming in here. We'll see. Hopefully he can keep that up, and not just the highlights, but being, efficient, assisted turnover ratio, taking care of the ball, getting guys set up in the right places. What a point guard at Carolina is supposed to do. So hopefully see more of that. Kobe White looked phenomenal, going full court, full speed, really pushing the ball, getting some layups, getting guys shots, knocking down shots. Nasir Little showed off his athleticism a little bit. Didn't see a lot from him there, but again, not that we needed to. With the competition they played. Even Roy Williams said the competition wasn't quite what he would have liked out there in the Bahamas, but it was good to see the guys. Again, it was just highlights. We couldn't get the live stream, but it was good to see the guys in action a little bit and all that stuff. So, yeah, now we get, a few videos of them conditioning. We'll get probably a first day of practice video. Some of that start coming out. Before we jump into the schedule, as far as currency is going, I did want to update you as well. Theo Pinson has signed a 2-way contract with the Brooklyn Nets. So he will be going back and forth between the G League and the NBA now for the Nets this next season. As well as, Joel is back and working with the Lakers. So hopefully, I don't think he signed a 2-way deal yet. So hopefully he gets something like that and can get some time in the NBA as well. Other than that, we're going to jump into the schedule here a little bit. We've had the non-conference schedule, but now we have the full schedule. Go look at goheels.com, probably the easiest way to find that. But we have the full schedule and most of the times and channels that they'll be on. We're not going to run through it. We'll do that in a later podcast as we get closer, probably in one of the October podcasts. And again, we've had the non-conference schedule, probably one of the toughest ones we've had in quite some time, if not ever, under Roy Williams. I mean, Gonzaga coming into Chapel Hill. We got Kentucky. We got Michigan in the Big 12 or the Big 10 ACC Challenge. We start 2 away games, Wofford and Elon opening up their new stadium. So, there's going to be more energy there for them. We got Stanford coming into Chapel Hill. We go out to Las Vegas and play Texas and then either Michigan State or UCLA. A Davidson over Christmas time. So that always is another challenge. But as far as the ACC schedule goes, again, I'm not going to go through all of it here, but we do start with 2 away games. We're at Pittsburgh and at NC State to start. Looking through here a little bit we got quite a few kind of back-to-back away games. Like I said, to start the ACC, we're away for 2 games, and then end of January, beginning of February, we're at Georgia Tech and at Louisville. Middle of February, we're at Wake and at Duke. And then in the beginning of March, we're at Clemson, at Boston College. So there's 3-4 times where we got 2 away games in a row, which hopefully helps us focus a little bit, but also can be a challenge in and of itself. But I've also heard this is the latest the first Duke game was. It's February 20. We're at Cameron Indoor Stadium. That's kind of the latest for the first time, our first game between them. So obviously those games become closer then. We know the hype around those, all that stuff, so we don't have to talk about that. But other challenges, we do only play only play Virginia once, and it's at home, so we don't go to Virginia. But as far as teams that we do play twice, obviously NC State and Duke, because that's every year. But then we also play, I believe we play Louisville twice, which seems like we always do. And then we play Miami twice, which we know going to Miami's hard, but also they should be decent to pretty good this year. So that's a challenge there. Who else do we play twice? I think Syracuse I only see Syracuse once. Felt like there was another team that we played twice that should be pretty good. We don't have Clemson at home, so the streak will be continued for another year. We don't have to worry about that, or the guys don't have that pressure on them. But yeah, like I said, we'll go through the schedule more in-depth game to game next month when we have kind of the prediction podcast. And as I'm speaking about it, send in your predictions. Give me what you think the season record is going to be for this season, as well as how far we'll go in the tournament. And I'll include that one. And just send me a DM on Twitter or Instagram. You can email it however you want. But then you can be included in that podcast as we get there next month. I believe that's kind of all the housekeeping stuff that I wanted to take care of before we jump into kind of what this podcast is about, and that's the player predictions. I'm going to go through probably not just every player individually, but kind of break it down into kind of give my final thoughts on who the starters will be before the season, impact bench players, guys that will get a few minutes here and there, and obviously the blue squad, or whatever you want to call it, when they come in at the end of the game for garbage minutes. So let's jump in here. So my starters, I've talked about this a little bit on the podcast already. I think Seventh Woods is going to start the season at the point guard. Everything I've heard about Kobe White coming out of there is that he's been phenomenal. He's looked great. So I do think there is a chance that he could be the starter from day one. But my gut feeling is that Seventh Woods is going to get the start early on. But and I don't know what it's going to be, whether it's an injury, hopefully not, knock on wood, nobody gets hurt. I don't know what it's going to be, just a tough patch or whatever it is. But I just think that Kobe White, whether it's from the day one or at some point this season, that Kobe White is going to be our starting point guard by the time we get to March. I don't know if it's going to be before ACC play, if it's somewhere in the middle ACC play. But yeah, I just think that he will be the starter when we're heading into March and tournament time and stuff like that. So I have that's kind of what I put as my starter then. Again, I think that maybe 7th will start, game 1. Maybe he'll start the first few and then make the switch. I don't know what it's going to be. Obviously, if 7th does start from the beginning, it's harder for Roy Williams to kind of take that from him unless there is an injury, really poor play, something like that. If Kobe's, if 7th is doing okay or manageable, Roy Williams, the way he's been, will probably keep him starting, even if Kobe's getting the majority of the minutes. But again, my gut feeling is at some point Kobe takes it over. I don't know that it's going to be before the first game. Again, that's my thoughts, my opinion. So obviously, then I say Kobe's the starter. Kenny Williams, Luke Maye, of course, going to be starters. I put it down as Roy going back to the big lineup. I know that's been the talk the whole offseason. Is he going to go small and start Nas with all the athleticism, the potential, the 5-star recruiting? I don't know recruiting hype, whatever it is. I don't think it's hype, but anyway, do you start Nas and go little with Luke at the 5 and Cam at the 4, Nas at the 4, whatever it is? Or do you go back to bigs and have Luke with Sterling or Garrison, something like that? So I think he's going to go back to the 2 bigs. So I think it's going to be Kobe, Kenny, and then Cam Johnson, as long as he's healthy, which everything we've heard is that he's going to be Luke at the 4. And then I put Sterling, Manley in there at the starting lineup. Obviously, that depends on him passing the conditioning test, which he didn't do last year. Hopefully he's worked on that and he can do that pretty easily this season, which is going on really as we speak until next week when we start practice. But I would assume he does. And again, this is my guess, opinion, whatever you want to say, as far as how I see it going. So yeah, that would be our starters. That means we have Nas coming off the bench. We have Garrison Brooks coming off the bench. And I'd say 7th Woods coming off the bench again. Whether that's from the beginning or not, I don't know. We'll see soon enough. But yeah, those kind of the next group of guys, impact guys, that gives us a guard, a wing, and a post coming off the bench as the first backup. Then we also have Brandon Robinson. We have Andrew Playtech. We have Brandon Huffman. Again, almost every level. Not really a point guard in that group, but and Leaky Black. I forgot about him. But those 4 would be kind of my next group where they're going to get minutes almost every game, but maybe not as many. And then we're left also with Walker Miller, KJ Smith, and Shea Rush as kind of the scholarship. I don't think they're even all scholarship. I know that KJ's on scholarship, but kind of the scholarship guys that don't get in every game. They get kind of garbage minutes with the walk-ons. So those are my kind of 3 levels. Obviously, this is predictions or my expectations for these guys. I think Kobe White's going to be phenomenal. He's going to be an impact player. Again, I don't know whether he starts from the beginning or not, but he's going to put up decent minutes. If we can get close to 10 points from him, I don't think we really need 10 points from him, but we get 6 to 9 points from him every game. Obviously, he's our point guard, so he wants some assists, get 3-4 assists from him a game, and keeping the turnovers down. That's got to be what we do. But also my expectations from Kobe, more than even the stats, is that he pushes the ball like a Ty Lawson did, like a Ray Felton did. Even Kendall Marshall, he did it more with a pass, but whichever way works best for him, that he gets that pass up and gets us into our transition offense, gets us some easy buckets, catches the defense on their heels, because that's what he showed in Bahamas, that he was going to attack. He was going full steam at the rim and then either dump it off, kick it out, or finish himself, which I think he's capable of all 3. So that's more of what my prediction is, that he pushes the pace a little bit more. And hopefully 7th can too, because that's the way Carolina plays. But I just think Kobe's going to fit better into that situation and be more natural for him to do that. So that's out of Kobe. Kenny, I think we kind of know what we're going to get. We're going to get the defense. We're going to get the hustle. He's going to knock down some shots. I predict, or I hope, maybe, I don't even know if I predict this, but I do hope he's a little bit better going to the rim to keep people honest. If they get up on him, he blows by him, maybe even 2 dribbles and a pull-up. But also I think we need him to be a better passer, especially if he has one of those nights where he's getting hot, that they start, staying closer to him, that boom, and I know he's willing. Just got to make sure the next guy's ready to take the shot and knock it down as well. So Kenny's, he's going to be one of our leaders. Him and Luke are going to be our leaders. And I think we kind of know what we're going to get from Kenny. Cam, I hope, I don't know. Again, I don't know if I can predict this or not, but what we need from him is to have a healthy season, be a little bit more consistent from 3. And again, also versatile. We can't have Kenny and Cam kind of be the same player where they're knock down shots, but they can't, mix it up in there. I think, Cam has shown that he can get in and get rebounds. Kenny's shown that he is a good defensive player. So, again, if we can get around, Kenny and Cam, especially Kenny, I think we need more than 10 points. He's got to average more around 12 points, 13 points, I think, a game. But what we need from Cam is, around the 10 to 12 points a game. But more importantly, I think, is rebounds. We need 6 rebounds from him a game. If he can average 6, I think that would be good. Tar Heel Nation here watching on YouTube says we got a lot of shooters. We do and we don't. I mean, Kobe can knock down shots for sure. Kenny, Cam, but B-Rob, 7th, Nas, they're not really. I mean, they can knock them down, but they're not really known as shooters. Playtech, he hasn't shot a ton. He came in kind of known as a shooter, but he hasn't really proven it. We know that Kenny Williams knocked down 1 3-pointer his freshman year. Obviously now Playtech going into, what is it, his sophomore, junior year? So hopefully he's got more confidence. I think he can knock down shots, but he also has to prove it before we can really call him a shooter. So and unfortunately too, 1 or 2 injuries or something, and we're definitely not as deep as what we look like on paper. So I think Kobe, if we can get 6 to 9 points a game, rebound, really set the pace and push the pace. Kenny, if we can get 12, 13 points a game. Cam, 10 to 12 points a game, and then Luke, he's got to be able to handle the bigger, more athletic guys. He struggled when he went up against some of those guys, and being more consistent in the big games. He had some great games, but unfortunately, it was some of the bigger games that he didn't have as good a game. Luke, he's been put on preseason All-American teams. He's got to average, not that I care if he lives up to All-American statuses. I would love him to do that, but we need him to average, 16 to 18 points probably. He's got to get close to 10 rebounds, 8, 9 rebounds a game. Again, be that matchup problem that he can be and is, especially when he's playing the 5, but then also defensively that hurts us. So he's got to hold his own and, again, be more consistent in those big games. I think he was pretty consistent throughout the last season, but it was the big games, unfortunately, that he sometimes didn't show up in. So again, Tar Heel Nation says 7th has got to step up. I think, this is his time. This is the last chance he's going to get, I think. This season, not just like at the beginning, but if he's not serviceable here, we're going to bring in guys that will take care of business. Whether that's, with Kobe as a sophomore with a back, someone else backing him up, or knock on wood that Kobe doesn't go, but if he goes pro, someone else comes in. So 7th he's got to stay healthy. You can't really blame the kid because he hasn't been healthy, but he's got to stay healthy, and he's definitely got to step up, and he doesn't have to score a ton. 7th Woods, doesn't have to be a scorer, doesn't have to be a shooter. He's got to run the team and set guys up, and he's capable, but he's got to do it. And then the last starter I had was Sterling Manley. We don't need the points from Sterling. If we can get 5-6 points out of him, what we need is obviously the defense. That's what we were missing last year when we went small, went up against Texas A&M, and they just beat us up down low. He's got to provide defense, blocking shots, and rebounding, defensively and offensively. We saw in the championship year with Isaiah Hicks and Kennedy Meeks and Justin Jackson, the offensive rebounds killed other teams. So we need, and it's almost become a staple of Roy Williams. So we need those offensive rebounds, and obviously he's got the length to block shots. He's got the length to rebound. Got to make sure we defend well, and then whatever he gives offensively off of offensive rebounds or whatever, is a plus. So that's kind of my starters. Then we have Nas off the bench, and I think for us to be Final Four national championship contenders, we need Nas to live up to the hype that he's been getting, and obviously he can. We've seen that, and all that stuff. But we need it. We need, I'm going to say 15 to 18 points out of Nas. It doesn't have to be 18, but somewhere in that range, 15 to 18 points a game. And again, it's the athleticism, the energy that he can bring that we're going to need from him, and defense as well. If he comes in for Kenny, he's got to be able to pick it up and lock people down. And he's versatile defensively as well. He's got the NBA body. He can even guard a 4-man. He can guard some of the big guys with his strength, but also he's got to be quick enough to be able to guard the guys out on the perimeter and not hurt us there. So. That's Nas. Garrison Brooks, again, he's got to do what he's done and just do it a little bit better. He's got to come in and play good defense. That's what Coach Williams kept harking on him last year, or really praising him for, I should say, last year, is his defense, being in the right position, rebounding, and then again, whatever he can get offensively is a bonus to us. If we can get Sterling to give us 5-6 points a game. If Garrison gives us 4 or 5 points, we get 10 points between the two of them, with like 12, 13 rebounds, even more than that, 15 rebounds between the two of them. They're giving us what we need. So that's what Garrison's got to do. Against Seventh Woods, we've kind of talked about a little bit. He doesn't have to be a scorer. If he can come in and give us 4 assists, a couple of steals, maybe a highlight dunk every few games to energize the crowd and get everybody going, take care of the ball. Yeah, Terry Nation says too, we need him to take care of the ball and not have too many turnovers. And that's managing the team. That's being the point guard. But that is what we need for sure. He's got to just manage the game, keep the turnovers down, keep the assists up, get a couple of steals, play some defense. And that's the thing too. If Kobe gets most of the minutes, or more minutes than Seventh does, if he can come in and just go all out at the other team's point guard and really put pressure on, like I said, get a couple of steals or something, that's going to be a bonus for us big time. B-Rob, Brandon Robinson, again, these are getting into guys that I think will play most games, but maybe only play 5 to 7 minutes, maybe up to 10 minutes some games. B-Rob's got to be more consistent shooting. He's got to come in and play defense. Again, if he comes in for Kenny, he's got to be able to come in and play. He's got to, hopefully he got stronger, but he's got to come in and be able to guard guys, get a couple of rebounds, just, knock down a shot here and there. As far as, I don't know if I want to put stats on him. We don't need a bunch of stats for him. If we get, good defensive and hustle and energy out of him, he'll be doing what he needs to be doing. Play take, same thing. He came in known as a shooter, so he does need to come in and when he's open, knock down the shots. There's been times, I know in the Bahamas, there's one for sure. He just didn't even look at the rim. He was wide open, and then he did knock down the shot. But when he's open, he's got to take it with confidence, knock it in, give us the hustle, the energy off the bench. And again, if he can get, 3, down to 3 minutes, up to 10 minutes or something, and just give us really good minutes, whether it's because guys are in foul trouble or whatever. Knock down some shots, maybe get a couple of steals. He'll be doing what we need him to do. Brandon Huffman, mostly rebounds and defense. If he can come in and maybe some hard dunks. I know Roy has mentioned too that he's the guy that dunks the most or the hardest, and all that stuff that he's had. And yeah, if he can come in and get some offensive rebounds and dunk them back, if he can get some offense or some defensive rebounds and get us out on the break, if he can lock up some guys, big guys, give us some muscle down low, he'll be doing what he needs to be doing. We're not going to put stats to him. And then we're left, well, again, I forgot to put on my list here, but Leaky Black as well. He's going to, depending on how Seventh looks. Seventh is being serviceable. Leaky, I think, probably gets a few less minutes. If Seventh is struggling, it could be a potential for him to come in as a backup point guard. Again, he's got to be ready for that, be able to ready to run the team. We get a couple assists from him, get a couple of matchup buckets because he is so tall for a point guard or even a guy on the wing. I mean, he's still pretty tall. I think he's like 6'8". So even, we saw what Justin Jackson did with his height there on the wing. Leaky can learn a little bit of that stuff too. He can play out on the wing with Kobe and really be a matchup for guys that they struggle with. So again, there's not stats really that I want to put with Leaky Black, but I think he could definitely have an impact and really boost us. And if we're talking about Final Four championship caliber team, everything's got to go right. We know that, and guys got to step up. And we can't have half the team playing up to the potential and the other half lagging behind or something. So yeah, and then we're left with Walker Miller, KJ Smith, and Shea Rush. Tim Pittman on YouTube says nobody's talking about it, but I can envision Walker Miller getting an opportunity. Has anyone commented on his development? I know Roy has never left him out. When he names the big guys, he's talking about Sterling and Garrison and Huffman and always throws Walker Miller in there. And he expects an impact from him by the time he graduates. Unless someone else, one of those other bigs get hurt. And I think he's got skills. I think he's got probably better offensive skills than Huffman and maybe even Garrison Brooks, but doesn't have the strength, doesn't have the athleticism and stuff to really get him in there. I don't know that the defense is up there. Again, we haven't seen much of him. I don't have an inside source on this or anything like that, but that's just kind of what I feel like I have seen from him or not seen from him. It doesn't seem like a junkyard dart is going to get in there and give us 3-4 minutes of just all out blazing, whatever. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting with the big guys we bring in if he can make an impact somewhere in there, even in the next 2 years before he graduates. So, I don't know. I don't expect much out of him. Again, now we're getting into the group where I think most games they don't play. If they do, it's kind of garbage minutes, or maybe it's one of those 5 for 5, and Roy just grabs some guys and throws them out there, or throws all the walk-ons on there because he's mad at the guys on the court or whatever. But KJ Smith, again, Roy has never left him out talking about the point guards. He's always said Seventh and Kobe and Leaky and KJ. And from what we even saw from the Bahamas, again, the competition wasn't great there, but what we saw wasn't bad from him. Again, he could come in and be a serviceable point guard for us. To me, it's more, will we need him though? Hopefully not. Hopefully Seventh is playing up to par. Kobe's playing phenomenal. Leaky's giving us some minutes there. And I don't know. I guess Roy could give him some minutes over Leaky at the point guard because Leaky could go somewhere else. But I don't see him being in the regular rotation, giving us that many valuable minutes this season. And same with Shea Rush. I think, what we've seen from him is what we've gotten. We know that he's going to hustle. He's going to put shots up when he's in there, but really when he's going to be in there is the end of the game, and not going to be much that we need from him. So, and then we do have a couple of walk-ons on the roster. Let's see, I'll pull it up real quick here. We have, so I get their names. Caleb Ellis will be number 25. If you see him, it says 6'4" guard out of Apex, North Carolina, so a local kid. And then Ryan McAdoo, number 35, 6'5" forward. Out of Florida. Says he's a sophomore. I guess he played JV last year, but he is I think it's Bob McAdoo's grandson, some relation there to McAdoo of the past. I could be wrong. Someone can correct me there, but yeah. So there's connections to the program, and again, not that we're gonna see much of them unless we're blowing them out or. Knock on wood, being blown out. So not going to spend any time on them. That kind of wraps up my predictions. I don't want to go into team expectations or my predictions for the team yet, because we will do that. So Andrew Neffer says he's a transfer from Florida Gulf Coast, talking about McAdoo. So there we go. Thank you, Andrew, for that information. But yeah, I will get into season predictions in October, probably the second half of October. After late night with Roy and all that stuff. So please send in your predictions as well. It's something we've done for the last few years now. We're a ton of you off of Twitter, off of Instagram, and really just anybody listening to the podcast, send in what you think the record's going to be, how far you think we're going to go in the tournament, and I'll obviously give mine, but then also read all of yours, and I'll put it down so that we have it on video and on paper, so we can go back at the end of the season and see who was right. And the last couple of years I've done that as well, podcast after the season, and gone through again all of your predictions and who's gotten what right, who predicted correctly and stuff. So you can give me as much or as little information there as you want. You can go into a lot of detail. We're going to win the ACC regular season, win the ACC tournament, go this far in the and this is our record. Or you can just give record and how far we go in the NCAA tournament. You can give me who you think we'll lose to. Whatever you want to give me, as much information, I will put it out there so it's on record for the end of the season. But shoot that to my Twitter, my Instagram, my email, whatever. All that will be down below in the description. Should be easy to find. And if you haven't connected with me on social media, I'd love to connect with you. I'd love to talk Tar Heel basketball, of course, and even college basketball anytime. It's time for me I've tried to get back a little bit more active on Twitter here recently, but it's time to start ramping that up even more, which is kind of difficult with 4 kids. I don't get a lot of time to just kind of sit and chill and do that stuff. So again, if you haven't connected, do it, because I need to be talking about basketball and stuff, and really even sports. But I love to talk to you guys about it, and I need to do it more because I don't get to do it enough. It's kind of my outlet. So this is my outlet. I thank you for that. I thank you for listening. As far as the podcast going forward, we're kind of done with once a month now. October, I usually do at least 2. And then getting into November, I think we ended up usually doing about 3 in November because I take off during Thanksgiving. But we'll pretty much start weekly podcasts in November, and definitely going into December. Again, December may end up with only 3 because of Christmas in there. But yeah, we're going. This is the last time I'll do 1 podcast a month. So I'm ready. I hope you're excited. It's going to be a great season. Again, I'm not going to give my prediction here because we're going to save it for that podcast coming up. But I do think we're going to have a great season, a great team. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. If we can get highlights out of Sevens, we can get highlights out of Nas. Get Kenny Williams or Cam with a couple of games where they have 5-6 3-pointers in a game. We get Brandon Huffman dunking the ball as hard as he does. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you'll stay with me. Subscribe so you stay with me through the whole season, and that we can go through this journey together as Tar Heel Nation. I've always said this is my mission of this podcast, is just unite Tar Heel Nation a little bit more. But I want to hear from you guys, and that's all I got from now. Leave your thoughts, your comments, questions, any of that stuff down in the descriptions, or shoot them on social media to me so we can chat it up. But that's all I got for you guys this week. Until next time, go Heels.